Bhagavatam, Canto 10, Chapter 89, verse 58, the Bhuma Purusha, or Mahavishnu, told Krishna, quote, "My dear Krishna and Arjuna, I have taken the Brahmin's sons just to see you." Unquote. Arjuna attempted to save some youths who had died untimely at Dwarka, and when he failed to save them, Krishna took him to the Bhuma Purusha. And when the Bhuma Purusha brought forth those dead bodies as living entities, he said, "Both of you appeared to preserve religious principles in the world and to annihilate the demons." In other words, the Bhuma Purusha was also attracted by the beauty of Krishna, and he concocted this pastime just as a pretext to see Krishna. It is recorded in Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 10, Chapter 16, verse 36, that after the serpent Kaliya was punished by Krishna, one of Kaliya's wives told Krishna, quote, "Dear Lord, we cannot understand how this fallen serpent got the opportunity of being kicked by your lotus feet when even the goddess of fortune underwent austerities for several years just to see you." Unquote. How Krishna is attracted by his own beauty is described in Lalita Madhava, Chapter 8, verse 34. Upon seeing his own picture, Krishna lamented, quote, "How glorious this picture is! It is attracting me just as it attracts Radharani." Unquote. After giving a summary of the beauty of Krishna, Ramananda Roy began to speak of the spiritual energy of Krishna, which is headed by Srimati Radharani. Krishna has immense energetic expansions. Three energies are predominant: the internal energy, external energy, and marginal energy. This is confirmed in the 6th chapter of Vishnu Purana, where it is said that Vishnu has one energy, which is called spiritual energy, and it is manifested in three ways. When spiritual energy is overwhelmed by ignorance, it is called marginal energy. As far as spiritual energy itself is concerned, it is exhibited in three forms because Krishna is a combination of eternity, bliss, and knowledge. As far as his bliss is concerned, his spiritual energy is manifested as the pleasure-giving potency. His eternity is manifested as energy, and his knowledge is manifested as spiritual perfection. As confirmed in Vishnu Purana, Canto 1, Chapter 12, verse 69, quote, "The pleasure potency of Krishna gives Krishna transcendental pleasure and bliss." Unquote. Thus, when Krishna wants to enjoy pleasure, he exhibits his own spiritual potency known as Hladini. In his spiritual form, Krishna enjoys his spiritual energy. That is the sum and substance of the Radha-Krishna pastimes. These pastimes can only be understood by elevated devotees. One should not try to understand the Radha-Krishna potencies and pastimes from the mundane platform. Generally, people misunderstand these as being material. When the pleasure potency is further condensed, it is called Mahabhava. Srimati Radharani, the eternal consort of Krishna, is the personification of that Mahabhava. In this regard, in Ujjvala Nilamani, Chapter 4, verse 3, Rupa Goswami states that there are two competitors in love with Krishna, Radharani and Chandravali. When they are compared, it appears that Radharani is superior, for she possesses Mahabhav Svarup. Mahabhav Svarup, the personification of Mahabhav, is applicable to Radharani only. Mahabhav is full of the pleasure potency, and it is an exhibition of the highest love for Krishna. Radharani is therefore known throughout the world as the most beloved of Krishna, and her name is always associated with Krishna as Radha Krishna. Brahma Samhita, chapter 5, verse 37, also confirms that Krishna expands himself by his pleasure potency in the spiritual world, and that these potencies are all non-different from Krishna. Although Krishna is always enjoying the company of his pleasure potency expansions, he is all-pervading. Thus Brahma offers his respectful obeisances to Govinda, the cause of all causes. As Krishna is the highest emblem of spiritual perfection, so Radharani is the highest emblem of that spiritual pleasure potency by which Krishna is satisfied. Since Krishna is unlimited, in order to satisfy him, Radharani is also unlimited. Krishna is satisfied just by seeing Radharani, but Radharani expands herself in such a way that Krishna desires to enjoy her more. Because Krishna was unable to estimate the pleasure potency of Radharani, he decided to accept the role of Radharani, and that combination is Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Ramananda Roy then began to explain Radharani as the supreme emblem of Krishna's pleasure potency. Radharani expands herself in different forms, known as Lalita, Vishaka, and her other confidential associates. In his book, Ujvala Nilamani, Rupa Goswami explains the characteristics of Srimati Radharani. He points out that the body of Radharani is in itself an actual evolution of transcendental pleasure. That body is decorated with flowers and fragrant aromas, and is complete with transcendental love for Krishna. That is the personification of his pleasure potency. That transcendental body takes bath 3 times. First in the water of mercy, second in the water of youthful beauty, and third in the water of youthful luster. After taking bath 3 times in that way, her body is covered with shining garments and decorated with Krishna's personal beauty, which is compared to cosmetics. Thus her beauty constitutes the highest artistry. Her body is also decorated with the ornaments of spiritual ecstasy, trembling, tears, petrification, perspiration, choking, cessation of all bodily functions due to transcendental pleasure, stumbling, high blood pressure, and madness. The decorative transcendental pleasure potency manifests 9 symptoms. 5 of these are manifested by the expansion of her personal beauty, which is adorned with garlands of flowers. Her patient calmness is compared with the covering of cloths which have been cleansed by camphor. Her confidential agony for Krishna is the knot in her hair, and the mark of tilak on her forehead is her fortune. Radharani's sense of hearing is eternally fixed on Krishna's name and fame. One's lips become red from chewing betel nuts. Similarly, the borders of Radharani's eyes are blackened due to her complete attachment to Krishna. This darkness might be compared to ointment used by nature when nature jokes with Radha and Krishna. Radharani's smile is just like the taste of camphor. The garland of separation moves on her body when she lies down on the bed of pride within the room of aroma. Out of ecstatic affection for Krishna, her breast is covered by the blouse of anger. Reputed as the best of all Krishna's girlfriends, she plays a stringed instrument. When Krishna stands in his youthful posture, she puts her hand on his shoulder. Although she possesses so many transcendental qualities, she is always engaged in the service of Krishna. Srimati Radharani is decorated with Sudipta Sattvika emotions, which sometimes include tribulation and sometimes pacification. All the transcendental ecstasies are manifested in the body of Srimati Radharani. Sudipta Sattvika emotions are manifest when a lover is overwhelmed with certain feelings which he or she cannot check. Radharani has another emotion called Kila Kinchita, which is manifest in 20 different ways. These emotions are manifested partly due to body, mind, and habit. As far as the bodily emotions are concerned, they are manifested in posture and movement. As far as the emotions of the mind are concerned, they are manifested as beauty, luster, complexion, flavor, talking, magnanimity, and patience. As far as habitual emotions are concerned, they are manifested as pastimes, enjoyment, preparation, and forgetfulness. The tilak of fortune is on the forehead of Srimati Radharani, and she also has a locket of Prema Vaichitya. Prema Vaichitya is manifest when a lover and beloved meet and fear separation. Srimati Radharani is 15 days younger than Krishna. She always keeps her hand on the shoulders of her friends, and she always talks and thinks of pastimes with Krishna. She always offers Krishna a kind of intoxication by her sweet talks, and she is always prepared to fulfill his desires. In other words, she supplies all the demands of Sri Krishna, and she possesses unique and uncommon qualities for Krishna's satisfaction. In Govinda Lilamrita, there is a verse which states, quote, "Who is the breeding ground for Krishna's affection?" The answer is that it is only Srimati Radhika. Who is Krishna's most lovable object? The answer is that it is only Srimati Radhika and no one else. Unquote. Sheen in the hair, moisture in the eyes, and firmness in the breasts are all qualities present in Srimati Radhika. Only Srimati Radhika is able to fulfill all the desires of Krishna. No one else can do so. Satyabhama is another competitor of Srimati Radharani, but she always desires to come to the standard of Srimati Radharani. Radharani is so expert in all affairs that all the damsels of Braja come to learn arts from her. She is so extraordinarily beautiful that even the goddess of fortune and Parvati, the wife of Lord Shiva, desire elevation to her standard of beauty. Arundhati, who is known as the most chaste lady in the universe, desires to learn the standard of chastity from Srimati Radharani. Since even Lord Krishna cannot estimate Radharani's highly transcendental qualities, it is not possible for an ordinary man to estimate them. After hearing Ramananda Rai speak of the qualities of Radha Krishna, Lord Chaitanya desired to hear from him about the reciprocation of love between them. Ramananda Rai described Krishna as Dhira Lalita, a word which describes a person who is very cunning and youthful, who is always expert in joking, who is without anxiety, and who is always subservient to his girlfriend. Krishna is always engaged in love affairs with Radharani, and he takes to the bushes of Vrindavan to enjoy his lusty activities with her. Thus he successfully carries out his lusty instincts. In Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu it is stated, quote, "By his impudent and daring talks about sex indulgence, Krishna obliged Srimati Radharani to close her eyes, and taking advantage of this, Krishna painted many pictures on her breasts. These pictures served as subject matter for Radharani's friends to joke about. Thus Krishna was always engaged in lusty activities, and thus he made his youthful life successful." Unquote. Upon hearing of these transcendental activities, Lord Chaitanya said, "My dear Ramananda, what you have explained regarding the transcendental pastimes of Sri Radha and Krishna is perfectly correct, yet there is something more I would like to hear from you." "It is very difficult for me to express anything beyond this," Ramananda Roy replied. "I can only say that there is an emotional activity called Prema Vilas Vivarta, which I may try to explain, but I do not know whether you will be happy to hear it. In Prema Vilas, there are two kinds of emotional activities, separation and meeting. That transcendental separation is so acute that it is actually more ecstatic than meeting. Ramananda Roy was expert in understanding these highly elevated dealings between Radha and Krishna, and he composed a nice song which he narrated to the Lord. The purport of the song is that the lover and the beloved, before meeting, generate a kind of emotion by the exchange of their transcendental activities. That emotion is called raga, or attraction. Srimati Radharani expressed her willingness that this attraction and affection between us rise to the highest extent. But the cause of this attraction is Radharani herself. Whatever the cause may be, Radharani said, that affection between you and me has mixed us in oneness. Now that it is the time of separation, I cannot see the history of the evolution of this love. There was no cause or mediator in our love save our meeting itself and the visionary exchange of feelings. This exchange of feelings between Krishna and Radharani is very difficult to understand unless one is elevated to the platform of pure goodness. Such transcendental reciprocation is not even possible to understand from the platform of material goodness. One has to actually transcend material goodness in order to understand. This is because the exchange of feelings between Radha and Krishna is not a subject matter of this material world. Even the greatest mental speculator cannot understand this directly or indirectly. Material activities are manifested either for the gross body or the subtle mind, but this exchange of feelings between Radha and Krishna is beyond such manifestations and beyond intellectual mental speculation. It can only be understood by purified senses freed from all the designations of the material world. Those who have purified senses can understand these transcendental features and exchanges, but those who are impersonalists and who have no knowledge of spiritual senses can only discriminate within the scope of the material senses, and thus cannot understand spiritual exchanges or spiritual sensual activities. Those who are elevated by virtue of experimental knowledge can only satisfy their blunt material senses either by gross bodily activities or by mental speculation. Everything generated from the body or the mind is always imperfect and perishable, but transcendental spiritual activities are always bright and wonderful. Pure love on the transcendental platform is the paragon of purity, devoid of material affection and completely spiritual. Affection for matter is perishable, as indicated by the inebriety of sex in the material world, but there is no such inebriety in the spiritual world. Hindrances on the path of sense satisfaction cause material distress, but one cannot compare that with spiritual separation. In spiritual separation, there is neither inebriety nor ineffectiveness, as one finds with material separation. Lord Chaitanya admitted that this is the highest position of transcendental loving reciprocation. And he told Ramananda Rai, "By your grace only have I been able to understand such a high transcendental position. Such a position cannot be attained without the performance of transcendental activities. So will you kindly explain to me how I can raise myself to this platform?" "It is similarly difficult for me to make you understand," Ramananda replied. "As far as I am concerned, I can only speak what you wish me to. No one can escape your supreme will. Indeed, there is no one in the world who can surpass your supreme will. And although I appear to be speaking, I am actually not the speaker. You are speaking. Therefore, you are both the speaker and the audience. Thus, let me speak only as you will me to speak about the performance required to attain this highest transcendental position." Ramananda Rai then began to relate the confidential and transcendental activities of Radha and Krishna. These have arisen from the feelings and emotions. They cannot be understood. One has to follow in the footsteps
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, can you hear me? So we'll end it here because my internet failed. I'm logged into another laptop. So I'll summarize it tomorrow. Panchakalpatarupyasya kripasindhubhyevacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Anandakoti Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai, Namacharya Srila Thakur ki jai. So I'll end the session here. Tomorrow we'll continue from where we stopped. Another 45 minutes are there that complete this whole book. So hope you will join us back. Hare Krishna. Ankit Prabhu, you can end the session. The live stream, if it is on, you please stop it.